All right, good morning, everyone. I'd like to call to order the April 5th meeting of Judicial and Public Safety Committee. Roll call, please.
Chair Renahan.
Here.
Member Chaplin. Here. Member Covert. Here. Member Desart. Member Eckhoff. Member Garcia. Member Krajewski. Member Ozog. Member Pachalski. Member Schwarzy. Member Selman. Member Zay.
All right, great. Thank you. We have a quorum. Do we have any public comment?
No public comment.
Great, thank you. So good morning, everyone. I'd like to welcome Family Shelter Services Court and Victim Advocacy Coordinator Heather Jameson here this morning. The county has fostered an invaluable partnership among family shelter, the court system, community services, and the public, providing supports to residents during vulnerable and difficult times. All of this is done with no requirement of income threshold, which is very notable. Specifically, the DuPage County Board has consistently supported the outreach, advocacy, and referrals to victims of domestic violence by family shelter through no fee rent at the courthouse, an annual allocation through community services. Also, COVID money and human services grant funds have supported these critical services. So thank you for all you and your staff does, Heather. I know you're a passionate advocate yourself and have helped so many families and children. So I appreciate you taking the time out to tell us more about the work you do later on in our meeting today. With that, I will request a motion to approve the minutes of March 15th, 2022. We have a motion second. Any additions, questions, comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Those pass. I'll take a motion to approve JPSP 011622, recommendation for approval of a contract to Peter M. King of King Holloway LLC for professional services, a conflict attorney for juvenile cases for the court, May 1st, 2022 through April 30th, 2023, not to exceed $42,000. Heard a motion. We had a second. Questions here? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? That is approved. Take a motion to approve JPSP 011722, approval for contract to Norix Group Inc.
So moved.
to provide 190 new stainless steel tables for detainees within the jail, April 12, 2022 through April 11, 2023, not to exceed $328,710.51. This is an ARPA item for the sheriff's office. We have a motion. We have a second. Any questions or comments on these tables? All right, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? That's approved. Take a motion to approve JPSP 011822, approval of renewal contract purchase order HOV services for consultation and technical services with application service systems for the circuit court clerk, June 1st, 2022 through May 31st, 2023, not to exceed $723,699. We had a motion and a second. Questions or comments here? All in favor? Any opposed? That passes. I'll take a motion to approve a budget transfer. This is for the state's attorney, transfer from regular salaries to information technology, $156,180. This expense is related to coronavirus relief fund. It's a closeout in contract with, had to do with remote operations. So we had a motion and a second. Questions or comments here? Yes, Vice Chair Pachalski. Okay, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? That's approved. I'll take a motion to approve budget transfer for the court, transfer of funds from professional services to IT, $1,802. And a motion and a second. Thank you. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? That passes. We have one authorization for overnight travel. I'll take a motion to approve emergency management coordinator going to Springfield, April 27th to the 29th, 2022. To speak at Illinois Emergency Services Management Association statewide conferences. There's no additional costs to the county. So we have a motion and a second. Questions here? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? That passes. All right, with that, with no further ado, I will welcome Heather Jameson. Please come up to the microphone here. We're going to hear about court and ancillary support services for domestic violence victims. Family Shelter Services, Metropolitan Family Services, DuPage. I think you all should have handouts, or they're being passed out right now. Did we miss anyone? No? Okay. All right. Thank you. Thank you, Heather.
Julie.
So yes, I'm Heather Jameson. I'm the Court and Victim Advocacy Coordinator at Family Shelter Service. I have been here for 27 years, so I'm very passionate about my work. For those of you who aren't familiar with our services, Family Shelter Service is the domestic violence agency here in the county, and all of our services are free and confidential. We have a 24-hour hotline. We have an all-inclusive emergency shelter that has 41 beds. Due to the pandemic, our shelter has not been operating just because of the concerns with communal living, but we have been using our COVID relief funds to safely house survivors and their families, their children in hotel rooms. So we have been able to utilize that money for the last 2 years, and we are in the transition of hopefully getting back into our shelter within the next month or so, because kind of things are loosening up and we're kind of getting back to somewhat normalcy. So fingers crossed that that can happen. We also provide individual and support group counseling for adults and their children. We provide services in Spanish. We have domestic violence education classes and life skills programming for our clients. We have a prevention, education, and training team that goes out into middle schools and high schools, and that team presents to the students there about healthy relationships, teen dating violence, kind of some red flags and warning signs to look for. We also have our 2 resale shops. One is located in Naperville and one is located in Glen Ellen, and our clients can shop there for free with vouchers, and they're open to the public. So anyone that shops there, any of the proceeds go back directly into fund our programming specifically. We also have our community advocates who mobile, and they can go out into the community and sometimes meet with survivors if it's not safe for them to seek our services at one of our locations. So they have been known to go out and meet victims at police stations, hospitals, maybe even libraries or coffee shops to give them some information, do some on-the-spot crisis counseling and safety planning with them. And then we have our court and victim advocacy program, which I oversee, where we assist with petitioners filing orders of protection, and we follow up on police reports that are called into our hotline as a mandate of the DuPage County Domestic Violence Protocol. In 2019, we merged with Metropolitan Family Services, hence our long name, Family Shelter Service of Metropolitan Family Services DuPage, in order to provide more wraparound services for our clients. So in addition to all of the domestic violence services that Family Shelter provides, Metropolitan provides early childhood education programs, a Head Start program, adoption preservation, some mental health counseling, and they have a legal aid society as well. So all of our domestic violence services are free. However, those services, those additional services that Metropolitan provides, there is a charge for those services. So what are our advocates' responsibilities? We have an office located over in the 505 building on the 3rd floor, and our court program specifically, we assist petitioners with filing orders of protection and then accompany them through the court process. So we sit down with people, we fill out their petitions online, we accompany them to court, we prepare any orders that the judge may or may not grant. We follow up with our clients before any future court dates, kind of helping prepare them for their next court hearings when they're coming back to seek an extension of their orders of protection. We provide safety planning, referrals, trying to link them to other community resources if they need that, give them attorney referrals. We maintain our client files, of course, and collect data for our outcomes. Most of our positions are grant funded, so we have to report a lot of numbers and refer a lot of our grants. And then we can accompany our clients to divorce courts, family courts, and on occasion, criminal courts. Sometimes after our clients are seeking an order of protection, they're involved in other court proceedings, and a lot of times they don't have attorneys. So we can accompany them and just kind of walk them through this process, help them navigate the court system, just to be that additional emotional support for them. And then, like I mentioned, we follow up on all of the domestic violence reports that are called into our hotline as required by the DuPage County Domestic Violence Protocol. And that is unique to our county. And that really states that anytime an officer in DuPage County goes out on a domestic violence call, they have to report that to our hotline. So the officers can either call the hotline, actually speak to a live hotline worker, provide them all of that information. It's really just a summary of the report, or they can go online and enter the report directly into our victim advocacy database. Our advocates, my team, then every morning goes through and reads through these reports, and then we do outreach to the victims by sending letters, making phone calls, checking on their safety, offering them resources, making sure that they're aware of the services that we provide. And on the average, we get about 500 calls a month. So if you think about that, that's really just all of the officers that are remembering that there is the protocol. Like we go out into the community and we do roll call trainings for police departments every year. And quite often we hear from officers that maybe they weren't aware of the protocol, or they thought that they only had to call in cases where there's been some physical violence or an arrest made and they didn't have to call in their verbal domestic. So some do fall through the cracks. But I mean, if you really think about the 500 that are actually reported and all of the ones, the hundreds of ones that go unreported. So I mean, DuPage, we do have a, an issue with domestic violence in our county, and it's very important, the work, I'm a little biased, but the work that we do is very important to help our DuPage residents. So our hotline workers will take that information, like I said, put it into the database. My team reads through them. We attempt to make phone calls. If we don't reach people by phone, then we send letters to them. We make 5 attempts to contact victims in cases where there's been an arrest, and then 3 attempts where there has not been an arrest. We don't leave messages. Our phone number is blocked for safety purposes. When we call, if we think the abuser may have answered, we just make up a fake name, pretend we have the wrong number. So if we don't reach them by phone, hopefully they will receive that letter, which will explain, who we are, why we're reaching out to them, gives them information about our services, other community resources, and hoping that they get that information so they can come on in and seek our services. Family shelter, I have a team of 5 court advocates that I supervise and myself. So there are 6 of us total. We have 2 staff that are bilingual in Spanish. And we also have an amazing volunteer program. So 1 day a week, we have a different volunteer that donates, in a complete full day, 8-hour day of their time that comes in and helps us. And we could not do the work that we do without our volunteers. So their main priority is their responsibility. They sit in our reception area. So they're the first point of contact when people enter into our office space. They greet them, they screen them for our services, welcome them, make sure that they're eligible for our services. They also provide that on-the-spot crisis counseling. They give referrals. They seasoned volunteers. We, allow them the opportunity to actually sit down with the client and maybe help them, prepare their petitions. We would never send a volunteer just into the courtroom and in front of the judge. Our staff usually handles that portion, but they do like to follow through with our clients so they can accompany us to court, kind of shadow and watch and help file the petition. So in order to volunteer at our agency, in case anybody was interested or anybody that wants to volunteer, we do have openings, and the only requirement is that you do have to take a 40-hour required domestic violence training course. Anyone that does direct service work with domestic violence victims has to be 40-hour trained if you're working for a domestic violence agency. I wasn't sure how much more information you were all interested in. I did include in here a slide about orders of protection, who would qualify for an order of protection. There does have to be a qualifying relationship in order to seek an order of protection. So the parties have to have some sort of dating relationship, maybe a current or former spouse, current or former boyfriend or girlfriend, current or former roommate, sharing a household, other family member, or a caregiver. There has to be that qualifying domestic relationship in order to qualify for an order of protection. We handle the civil cases. So if there has been an arrest in the case, we would refer our individuals to seek assistance from the state's attorney's office with a criminal protective order. However, if there hasn't been an arrest, they can come in and seek our services. They always have the option to file on their own or hire a private attorney, but the majority of the individuals we come in contact can't afford an attorney. So that's why we're here to help provide this service for free to them, to help them navigate the court system. We do not take appointments. It's just a walk-in basis. Like I said, we're located on the 3rd floor of the 505 building. We have amazing office space now. We have been in that location since the 503 annex was built and the state's attorney's office moved over into that building. We took over some of the space where they previously were. Prior to that, when I first started here back in the mid-90s, we just had a little conference room, whatever it's 10 by 10 or 12 by 12 office right outside one of the courtrooms. We had 7 staff at that time. We were jammed in this little office. We had 3 desks. We were working with our clients just in the hallways of the courthouse, kind of in the chairs and the little tables, the benches that are provided there. There was no confidentiality. It was really a bad situation. So over the years, I think the county has realized what valuable service that we provide. And so we have this amazing space, and I cannot be more thankful for all of the support the county board has given us over the years. So thank you for that. And that's really all I have. So if anyone has any questions.
Vice Chair Buchowski, would you mind taking some questions?
Sure.
All right. Okay, Vice Chair Buchowski.
Thank you for the presentation. What is your relationship with the state's attorney? I thought there was some intergovernmental agreement where in certain crisis situations, some of your people are being appointed.
We have a very good partnership with the state's attorney's office. However, legal aid, I believe it was last year, really formed the partnership where the state's attorneys, where a couple of them were deputized and they're handling those criminal protective orders in conjunction with the state's attorney's office, kind of handling the child related matters in the order of protection cases.
But that doesn't, is that not?
That's not, no, not with us, but we
Okay,
have,
but
we have a very good working relationship with the
Okay,
state's
because
attorney's
I thought
office
that
as
was,
well.
and
but-
then you, because some of these cases are quasi-criminal and it would probably make sense to have a deputized state's attorney in a case like that. So thank you.
You're welcome.
Member Ozak.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. First of all, thank you so much for your presentation. I was recently named to the Board of Metropolitan Family Services DuPage, and I was very honored, but today I'm really proud. Thank you so much for the work that you do. And I'm really shocked to hear the need. 500 calls a month is an average of what
That's a
you're
lot.
dealing with. That's,
I mean, and then when you look at our shelter, we only have 41
right.
beds, so
Right.
and that's.
So thank
Really
you so much for the great, important work you're
Thank
doing.
you.
Member Covert.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. Thank you so much for presenting today. Really great work that you guys do. Really appreciate it. Just had a really quick question. Do you provide services and do you have translators in other languages other than Spanish?
We don't really have staff that speak different languages other than Spanish. However, we can work with other agencies to call, especially the Domestic Violence Coalition. We can call and have interpreters on the line that can, that help interpret if people are coming in to need shelter. If they're calling the hotline, they would just have to call the state hotline. They do have interpreters on those hotlines. And then when they come to court, of course, we can order an interpreter through the Chief Judge's office to have them available to help through the order protection process. But it is definitely a challenge because we really only have Spanish-speaking staff, on site to work with.
Thank you.
Member Chaplin.
Thank you. Thank you, thank you, Chair Renahan, and thank you so much for the presentation. And thank you for the good work that you do. I was just wondering, have you seen an uptick with those 500 calls a month during COVID, or has that always been about the average, or are we seeing a little bit more because of
500 is usually the average. During COVID, definitely there were more calls to the police. It was very hard for survivors to actually, seek services, especially during the pandemic when we were on lockdown. We worked at home remotely for 3 months. We were pulled out of the courthouse, even though court was still open for emergency orders of protection. That never shut down. I know a lot of things went to Zoom, like traffic court, divorce court, things like that, but the order of protection courtroom was always open. So it was very difficult when we were home. My staff was home for 3 months. We were trying to take calls from people who were needing orders of protection, spending an hour or two on the phone with them, trying to complete that petition over the phone, then just blindly sending them into court on their own to navigate the system by themselves. It was extremely hard for them to find, number one, a safe place to make a phone call, to be on the phone that long if they're with their abuser. They really couldn't lie and say, oh, I'm going to the gym or the library or somewhere when everything was shut down. We had the stay-at-home order. So there are a lot more calls to the police. It's kind of leveled out now. The orders of protection kind of took a dip during that time because people really weren't able to get out and seek orders, but now we're kind of back to our normal.
That's good to hear. And then also, I know you mentioned that the police do reporting to you, but what about emergency rooms or any schools? So do you, as an emergency room, like if they see what they feel is domestic?
If they see, yes, their staff can call our hotline. And like I said, sometimes our mobile advocates, our community advocates can be dispatched if they think that they have a victim that's there and is needing some immediate assistance. Our advocates, if they're available, can go out and meet with the victims on site in the emergency rooms, at the hospitals, at the police stations, and provide those services.
Okay, great.
On site.
Thanks so much.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Member Ozak. Thanks.
About how many volunteers do you have who work that 1 8-hour day?
Well, at our court office, we have a different volunteer every day of the week, so we usually have 5. We currently only have 3. One moved away, and one person, health reasons, had to stop volunteering, but they are amazing because we require a full entire day, 8 to 4, because there's such a learning curve. And if you're only there a couple hours a week, there's so much to learn in the court system. So, and our volunteers have been with us, the current ones that we have been there between 10 and 15 years. So I mean, they come and they, don't leave. Our hotline is also staffed with volunteers. Pre-pandemic, really anybody that was answering our hotline, we really were trying to build up our volunteer program to not have staff do that. And so we had about 40 or 50 volunteers that would answer our hotline. Some of them do grocery shopping when we're in shelter and do the shopping for our clients and bring food, help out with the groups. If we have the adult and children group, sometimes, we'll have the kids, kind of need, not like daycare, but, someone to entertain them. So we have volunteers that help out with that. We have volunteers that do our yard work, painting in our shelter, making welcome packets for people. So there's always the need for volunteers, and we could not do the work without volunteers.
And the 8-hour, that's one set of volunteers. Are the other volunteers less of a time
Yes,
commitment?
so if they come in, do grocery shopping, if that takes an hour or 2, if
So
they
there's
help out with a group, that's an hour and a half.
more
or, a
flexibility.
project. So it's
And
really our program that has that requirement. So
Do they have to have training as well?
yes, they have to have they have to complete the 40-hour domestic violence.
Everybody
training.
does.
And
Okay,
if you're
thank you.
having direct client contact, yes.
Oh, okay,
And
all right.
so, and
Okay.
then obviously they get the on-the-spot training, on-the-job training
Okay, thank you.
from us there.
All right, great. There are no more questions. I just want to thank you again for coming in. When I first got on board, family shelter was one of the first places I wanted to go and visit. And I met Judy Caribou, got to see the shelter, see the families, and see just how important it is. You really cannot underestimate the importance of someone standing next to you when you're going through a vulnerable circumstance like this. So I appreciate what you do. And I think it's also just a tremendous example of the court system working together with our community services and the sheriff and everyone working together for the betterment of our residents. So I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks for
Thank you
coming
for
in.
having me.
Appreciate it. Do we have any old business? All right, do we have any new business? All right, new business, I'd like to say hello, Hinsdale Central. Is it AP government? And which, okay, hi guys, thanks for coming out today. I recognize you. If there's any other new business? All right, I'll take a motion to adjourn. All right, second, all in favor? Aye. All right, thank you.